Well, what do you know? It's been, let's see, 3 years since I've made my sea monkey tutorial as to how to create sea monkeys. And so 3 years later, I finally decided to remake the tutorials and fix the mistakes that I made way back then. And so the title of the video is pretty literal. I'm remaking my tutorials. And this time, I'm not going to be teaching you how to make it from 3 packets in a container. I'm going to use a kit. This one is the On Mars Sea Monkeys kit. And I remember back in the days when I was maybe 8 and, you know, I used to have this kit. So I decided that I would use this again since it was one of my favorites as to how it looks and simply the design of it. And so, I guess at this point there's really nothing to do but to unbox it. So let's see where this starts, okay? There's the tape. Let me get this tape done. I've got it. Let's rip this. There we go. Opens up. And we can simply remove everything from the kit. This is a little bit different from how I used to do it. Back then, the kit was probably different. And let's see. In the kit is everything you see here, and hidden are 2 papers. The first one is a simple diagram with instructions, and interestingly, a paper for ordering supplies and general information about sea monkeys. I haven't seen this piece of paper for years. I assume that they stopped doing orders through this paper method because they still do accept online orders. Well, not necessarily by printing out the order forms online, but you get the point. And so let's rip this open. Man, I hate ripping perfectly good packages, especially if they look nice. And so all there's left to do is to rip this open. And so the most important part is obviously the tank. Next most important part are the packets. 1, 2, and 3. The water purifier, which is used to purify the water, as the name suggests. The eggs. And finally, the growth food. Back a few years ago, they used to include a 4th packet, plasma. I'm going to explain this stuff in one of my next few videos for those who may have it for some reason. And let's see, there's the magnifying glass, which also acts as a top. As always, it's loose. I always thought that this was a defect, but apparently not so much. And finally, there's the Aqua Leash. In my past videos, you've seen it. It's used to suck up anything in the tank, the sea monkeys, to transport them. And it can also be used as an aerator. But that's what the million bubble air pump is for, which I will introduce in my next few videos. And so, all this ripped up packaging aside, let's see what the tank is like. And so, the tank hasn't changed since I last got it, back way then. There's that little guy that's floating around, and there's all that terrain. And one reason why this is one of my favorite kits is because of the fact that the terrain is kind of interesting, you know. And so, not much to say, so let's get to the growing part. So, the first topic that we will cover is the water. That's the most important part, obviously, because that's where they swim in. That's pretty much what they live in, and yeah. So, what I prefer, as you can see, is bottled water. And to grow sea monkeys, you need pure water. I mean, you simply cannot use the stuff from the tap, you know, because tap water, as you know, has chlorine and all these chemicals that will kill it, that packet 1 will not clean out. Because the reason why packet 1 is here is not to remove the chlorine from the water, because what this does is that this contains the salts that turns the water into salt water, and it contains bacterial agents, antibacterial agents that kill off any remaining bacteria. And so, some people may think, what if I don't have bottled water at home? Well, there are a few alternative options. One of them is to boil the water from the tap. And what you want to do is that you want to take water and boil it for about 5 minutes, and then after it's boiled, you leave it in a container to cool. And after it's cooled down to room temperature, you can simply use it like that. And if for some reason you're too poor to boil your water, maybe you're some hobo on the street that's stolen one of these kits, then, you know, maybe you can take water from somewhere. Then one alternative option is to just simply take the tap water and let it sit overnight and let the chlorine just evaporate from it. Now, this is probably the worst method to do it, but if for some reason, you know, you can't get water, you know, this stuff is really cheap. If for some reason you can't get this stuff, or if you don't have the utilities to boil it, then that's your only option. So, the first thing you should do is check for any signs of damage, because if you have a leak, that's a pretty bad thing to have in your tank, obviously, because water leaks and your sea monkeys end up dying. And so, first thing we want to do is fill this up with water. Fill it up to this line. They have a sticker for you which will show you what level to fill it up to. And now with whatever water you've got, all you have to do is just pour it in to the specified level. Spill a little bit. Okay, almost there. And stop where the level shows you to stop. And now one thing you might want to do is that you may want to use another bottle of this to rinse out the tank before you, you know, put the water in it second time, because, you know, there's going to be leftover residue from the manufacturing process, but this isn't necessary because, you know, I have no idea honestly if this really increases your chances of having these hatch more, because honestly I really think it's just a luck of the draw thing, you know. Sometimes you may get a set of eggs that have a high hatch rate, sometimes you have a low hatch rate on some packages. I'm just saying, it's just a luck of the draw deal. And well, look at that, we're running out of time already. Well, I will see you next video. Move on to part 2. It's gonna be right here.